Hi students, I'm going to show you some tricks and tips on how to find frequencies for some of your survey data and to make charts. So this is categorical nominal data. There are 3 questions here and their choices were, answer choices were yes and no. We have 6 cases, so we got 6 survey forms. And if one takes this and just tries to make a chart off of the data as is, you could try that. You could drag the range. You could click on this little icon that shows up. You could click on charts and make yourself a chart. And what you find is you have not particularly useful chart here because all it's doing is showing the same data that was in the table. That case 1 said 2, case 2 said 2, case 3 said 1. That's not really what we want. What we want is to know a graph of how many people answered 1 and how many people answered 2. So up here we will write Q1 and we'll write, so we remember 1 and 2. We're going to use a function called COUNTIF. COUNTIF. It's asking us to drag the range, and this is our range. And then when it asks for criteria, it's wanting to know what value we're looking for, and we're looking for 1. So this is telling us 2 people answered 1 here, and I see that that is actually what happened. So this looks like it's working so far. Let's check once more. COUNTIF 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So we're good with this, it looks like. So now I have my frequencies. 2 people answered 1, which would be yes. 2 people answered 2, which would be no. No people answered missing. Everybody answered this question. So let's try the most common way somebody might try to make a chart here, which would be to drag this range. And again, we could click on this icon. Sometimes it doesn't show up, and if that doesn't show up, do Insert, Charts, and then choose the chart you want, or you could ask for what's recommended. They're recommending a column chart, and I'll say that's fine. So here is the chart. It's much more useful than the last one in that we know that 2 people answered 1 and 4 people answered 2. And to have it in our report, however, we need to take a look at this and look at it from the point of view who sees it, and they're not really going to know what this is saying. So for one thing, they don't know what Q1 means. So we can click on this and we can change this. What might be really nice to do is change it here. So, do they like caviar? We'll just put caviar. And caviar shows up in the title. Another thing, on this axis, notice that it goes from 0 to 0.5 to 1 to 1.5, but we don't have any half numbers in here, so I think that's a bit cluttered. So I'm hovering so that the word vertical axis shows up, and then I'm going to right-click it, and what I see coming up here on the right-hand side is units major. And units major is in halves, and I'm going to put them in wholes. So there we go with that. Now this is better. It's still no particularly easy way to know what 1 and 2 represent. And I'll have to be honest, adding a legend doesn't help, because if we add a legend, here's what we get. That pretty much tells us what the title we just wrote told us, which is that the blue lines mean caviar. So let's drag this down here. And we may think that it said 1 and 2 because we have a 1 and 2 over here, but it actually didn't, because we hadn't added that as part of our chart. So let's just try it by adding that. Now, one thing that's really important is that this be blank. If we put, well, you can just play with it and see. I won't take the time in this tutorial to tell you how strange it will look if you add something in there, a label in there. So here we have caviar, clustered column again. We still got our 1 and 2. We have our vertical axis that we want to change. Ooh, look at that. I clicked the wrong thing because what came up over on my right hand side was not right. It is not surprising. Sometimes it takes this a few times. Vertical value axis. Somebody with way more skill than me knows how to get this the first time. I'm not even call it skill. Oops, there it was. I'm going to call it practice because I actually used to know how to get this the first time. So we're looking kind of the same as the other one with this still 1, 2 problem, but we've got a difference because look, we've actually selected this. So let's fix that. Yes? No. Simple as that. So that's our yes, no caviar. Let's just say we decide that we want to change this. I double clicked on this and all of a sudden up at the top comes an entire different set of instructions, and one of them is change chart type. So I could change this to a pie if I wanted to. And I could click on one of these and then right click and then say add data labels. So that's going to tell me that we've got 2 and 4 here. I'm going to change it back just because I really liked the idea of a column chart. I like this one. I notice my data labels are still here, but I don't care about them anymore because I have the vertical axis that's showing me what the data points are. So we'll get rid of this guy because we're improving on it. We've improved on that easy one. And we pretty much have a very clear picture of what their data said here. But let's do the same thing. Let's add Q2 and Q3. Let's put them all on the same chart. So equals count if. This time I'm going for Q2. 8 equals 1. So one of the really nice ways about doing this is, that's wrong. Hold on, 2. One of the really nice ways about doing this is I don't have to worry about that missing value at all because I simply never asked it to count negative ones. So we'll have this be row. Do people like row? Do column 3. It's 1. If it's 2. Pringles. Take a step down in the cultured people. So now we're going to do a chart. And this is really cool. We're going to add our own title now, and that's because they've put caviar, row, and Pringles on the horizontal axis, and they've added their own yes-no legend this time. So, chart title, let's call it food preferences. We'll click on this and we'll get all of our chart stuff up here. Again, we could change the chart type, but one thing that might be more useful is to switch the row and column. It just depends how you want to show it. Right now we know that 4 people didn't like caviar and 2 did. We know that in terms of row, 4 people actually liked it. We might want to just compare yeses and nos and do it that way. So then our legend is caviar. So now we know that actually more people prefer roe than either Pringles or caviar. And we know that caviar was the most disliked. So it just depends how we want to look at that data. We can change colors. We can do all kinds of cool stuff. But all the ways to play, you can see dash type, cap type, format shapes. You can get the grid lines in and out. Those won't be the topic of this tutorial though. Those are all just for you to play with. So what we've learned here again is to take our raw data, turn it into frequencies, and make charts either of the frequencies or comparing frequencies of different questions.